welcome to Chapter 9. This is about markups and markdowns. We'll also take a look at percent markups and markdowns. So if you've ever been shopping, which I'm sure most of you have, even if this is grocery shopping, you will see discounts applied. Those would be markdowns. You will see things that were maybe bought at wholesale price and then sold to the consumer at more so that they make a profit. That would be a markup. So you deal with this on a day-to-day basis. So let's say we're going to go shopping for Valentine's Day, and you just realize, oh no, you forgot to get your girlfriend or boyfriend a card. So you're thirsty, you grab a 16-ounce bottle of water from Circle K on your way, and then you make your way to the store. Well, at the store you purchase a Hallmark greeting card, a dozen roses, and then your eye catches a glimpse of a beautiful TI-83 calculator that you just have to have, given your love for math. And then on the way home, you stop by Pizza Hut and grab yourself a medium pizza and a large Coke. So how much have you spent today so far? Well, I did the math and added all of these things up, and I got about $182.50, mostly because of the TI-83, unfortunately. Okay, so how much would you have spent if you had paid wholesale or made the stuff at home? Well, you would actually have only spent about $36.60. So a significant difference. And this is what companies will do. They will take a product, and I mean, the whole goal of sales is to make a profit, right? So they're not going to sell it to you at a wholesale price. They're going to add an amount to it to make a profit. So they upcharge. Okay, so a basic formula we're going to be using, and I'm going to replace this with letters C plus M equals P. So this cost is talking about the wholesale cost, or you could think of it as like the original price, what it was worth originally. And then, so they take this original cost of an item and they add a certain amount to figure out what they're going to sell it to you at, and that's called the markup amount. And then that gives them the selling price that they will sell to the consumer. Now, if you wanted to, you could rewrite this equation to solve for various things. So for example, if I have C plus M equals P, and I wanted to find the markup. That means I need to get markup alone, so I would subtract the cost to the other side. So I get markup equals the selling price minus the cost. So if you wanted to know how much something was marked up, you just take the final price and subtract the original price, which is the cost. And then similarly, if I wanted to solve for the C, I would subtract the M to the other side. So I get this formula, the cost, so the original price is how much they sold it to you at minus how much it was marked up. Okay, so we're not going to take a look at this website, but let's look down here. So a Louis Vuitton purse sells for $1,690. That is crazy. It has a markup of $1,115.51. What was the cost of the purse? So if I take a look at my formula here, so what was the original cost is basically what that's asking of the purse before they sold it to you. So it sells for $1,690. That's my selling price. I know the markup was $1,115.51, and I need to solve for the cost. So I'll write that down here. So I'm just going to subtract $1,115.51 to the other side to get the cost alone. And I get $574.49. So this is how much it cost them maybe to manufacture it, and then they ended up selling it to you at $1,690, and people will pay. So they made a lot of money off of that. Okay, percent markup is slightly different. So The Samsung Galaxy screen protector costs $3, so on that same website, and it's sold for $9. Okay, so if I want the percent markup, I first need to find the markup. So what is the markup? Well, it went from $3 to $9. So to find the markup, I'm just going to do 9 minus 3. And if you need your equation, cost plus markup equals price. It costs $3. I don't know how much it was marked up, but it was sold for 9. So to get M alone, I just subtract 3. So I get $6 is how much it was marked up. So if they just want to know the markup, you're done. But I want to know the percent markup. So to find the percent markup, I'm figuring out what percent of the original amount was it marked up. So if I want to know the percent that it was marked up, I'm going to take the amount of the markup and I'm going to divide by the original cost, or the wholesale price. So if I do that, it was marked up $6. The original price was $3. If I do that, I get 2. Now that's not 2%. That's, I need to now convert it to a percent. So 2 choices. You can either, at the end of this, multiply by 100 to get the percent, or move the decimal over twice, which would give me 200%. Either way, I get 200%. So this is really the equation you're going to be looking at to figure out the percent markup. Okay, so velour robes, sorry about the writing on here, cost $32.41 and are sold for $48. What is the percent markup? So first I need to figure out the amount that it was marked up, and I do that by subtracting the selling price and the cost. And then I'm going to divide that by the original cost, which was $32.41. If you're not sure which one to divide it by, with percent markup, as long as it was based on the original price, you're going to be dividing by the smaller of the 2 numbers. Okay, so that's going to give me, if I subtract those 2, that's $15.59 divided by $32.41, and then I'll multiply that by 100. So I get 0.481, and then that times 100, or move the decimal over twice, and you get 48.1%. So it was marked up almost 50%, which means it was marked up almost half of its original cost. So think about it, $32, half of that is 16. It was marked up about $16, which would give us 48. So that makes sense. Okay. Move on from that one. Okay, so there are some formulas that we used. So to find the markup amount, which we already talked about. The markup rate, so that's the same as the percent markup. So markup rate and percent markup are the same thing. To find that, we took the markup amount and divided it by the cost. Okay, so find the cost given the markup and markup rate. So let's say you could win this candy bar. I'm sorry, I don't have one for you to actually win, but I guess I could ship it. Find the cost of this Twix bar if it was marked up 25 cents and has a markup rate of 39%. So, it was marked up 25 cents, so that's the M. And I need to find the cost. And I know it was marked up 25 cents to give us the new price, right? So I need to figure out the markup rate was 39%. So when I found the markup rate to be 39%, That means it's 39% of the original cost, right? So 39% of the cost, when I did that, I get the markup amount, which was 25 cents. So I need to figure out the cost. So I'm not actually going to be using that formula. I'm going to use this instead. When I want 39% of a number, that means I need to convert this to a decimal, so 0.39 of, can either tell us to multiply or divide? When you're doing percent of a number, you'll multiply. So I'm going to multiply by the cost, and that's going to give me 25 cents. So now I can just solve for the cost. If I just divide by 0.39, I'm going to get, let's see, 0.25 divided by 0.39 is 0.64, so 64 cents. So that's how you find the cost given the markup and the markup rate. You basically take, I basically took this 25 cents was the markup amount, and I divided it by the markup rate, which I had to first convert to a decimal. So this is basically the formula I used. Oh, that one. Okay, find the cost of these Elvish earbuds. I had a picture, but it's not showing up right now, which have been marked up $4 and has a markup rate of 30%. So if it was marked up 30%, I'm saying 30% of some original cost equals the markup amount of $4. So I can convert this to a decimal, 0.30, by moving it over twice, times the cost gives me 4. So I'm going to divide by 0.30 on both sides, giving me $13.33. Okay. So let's say I have a pair of shoes that's been marked up $25 and has a markup rate of 50%. So now this time I'm just going to use this formula. So it's $25, and I'm going to be dividing that by 50%, which is 0.5, and that gives me $50. Now this one you might have been able to reason through, because think about it. Find the cost. It's been marked up $25 and has a markup rate of 50%. So basically we marked it up half of the original cost. So I'm saying half of the original cost was $25. Well, half of 50 is $25, so it was originally 50. Oh, there it is. There's the picture of the Elvish earbuds. Aren't those cool? And then the cool shoes. Look like bowling shoes. Okay, so now let's find the cost and markup given the rate and selling price. Okay, so I have this bag of chips. Find the cost and markup. Are you guys getting hungry yet? Find the cost and markup of these Cheetos, which can be found in the vending machine, for $1.25. And I should say are marked up, Cheetos is plural, 155% of the cost. All right, so I took 155% of the cost and that gave me my markup, right? And the $1.25, that's what they were sold for. So that's the selling price. So if I go back to that formula, cost plus markup equals selling price. I don't know the cost. That's what I'm trying to find, right? And I also don't know the markup. but I do know that the markup is 155% of the cost. So in other words, it's, if I convert this to a decimal, it's 1.55 times the cost. Because 155% of tells us to multiply the cost, which I am using the letter C to represent. So instead of M for markup, I'm going to put what M is equivalent to. It's kind of like substitution. So I'm going to put 1.55 C, 155% of the cost. And that's what's going to give me my selling price. But I actually know the price, so the price, remember, was $1.25. And now I can solve this because I only have one variable. If I add these together, that's like having a 1C plus 1.55C. That gives me 2.55C. And then to solve for C, I'll just divide by 2.55. And when I do that, 1.25 divided by 2.55, I get 0.49. And I rounded 2 decimal places because we're talking about money. So the original cost was 49 cents for the bag of chips, and then they sold it to you for $1.25. So that's the cost, but then they also wanted the amount it was marked up. Well, remember, the markup is just going to be the price, selling price minus the cost. So I have my selling price was $1.25. My cost was 49 cents. If I subtract those, I get 76 cents. So it was originally 49 cents. It got marked up 76 cents to give us the selling price of $1.25. Okay, so let's do another one. Find the cost and markup of a bicycle tire which sells for $18 and is marked up 50% of the cost. So the cost plus the markup is the selling price. It sells for $18, so that's my P. I don't know the cost, that's what I'm trying to find. And I don't know the markup, but I do know it was marked up 50% of the cost. So 50% of the cost is the same as saying 0.50C. So I'm going to replace the markup with 0.50C. When I add those together, that's like a 1C plus 0.5C, so that's 1.50 or 1.5C equals 18, and just divide by 1.5. When I do 18 divided by 1.5, I get 12. Oops. So the cost, the original cost was $12, and it got marked up to $18. So to find the markup, I'm just going to do 18 minus 12, which is $6. So it was originally, the original cost was $12. The markup amount was $6. Oh, what did I just do? To give me the $18. Okay. Always an adventure. Alright, so let's move on to another type of problem. So let's find the percent of markup based on the selling price. Okay, so you might think to yourself, we already found the percent of markup. Yes, you're right, but we found it based on the original price, the original cost. Now we're finding it, and this is kind of strange. You don't see it done this way very often, but we're going to find the percent of markup based on the selling price. So let's say we have some cashews. The price of raw cashew nuts is currently quoted at about $1.50 per kilogram, yet the retail price is more in the area of $15 per kilogram. What is the markup and percent markup based on selling price? So that's going to be very important to look and see if it was a percent markup based on cost or the percent markup based on selling price. If it doesn't clarify, just go with the cost, but if it says selling price, there's something different you have to do. So, first of all, they want to know the markup. Okay, so to find the markup, we just subtract, right? It was sold for $15, but it was originally $1.50. So if you subtract those, it was $13.50 is how much it was marked up. Okay, now do you remember for the markup rate, or the percent markup, we took the markup amount and we divided it by the original cost? Well, we're not going to do that this time. Because it's based on selling price, instead of dividing by the original cost, we're going to divide by the selling price. So, though I would want to normally I would want to divide this by $1.50, I'm going to divide it by the 15 instead. And then you can multiply by 100 to get it to a percent. Okay, and that gives me, if you multiply, you get 90%. Okay, let's do another one. A dog collar which costs $4 and sells for $10. So for the markup, I'll just do 10 minus 4. That's $6. And since I want the percent, I'm going to take $6 and divide it by whatever it's based on, which is the selling price. Based on cost, I'll divide by cost. If it's based on selling price, I'll divide by selling price. The selling price was $10. And then I'll multiply by 100 in the end. So I get 0.6 times 100, or move the decimal over twice, and you get 60%. So it's marked up 60% of the price. On to another type. Find the selling price with the amount of markup based on selling price. I know that sounds like you're saying selling price a lot, but let's look at this problem. A cell phone which has been marked up $50 and it has a markup rate of 33% based on selling price. Okay, so let's go back to our original formula. So I want to find the selling price, so I want to find P with the amount of markup based on the selling price. Okay, so it's been marked up $50. Okay, so I know the markup's $50. I don't know the P. And the markup rate is 33% based on the selling price. So this $50 is actually 33% of the selling price. So 0.33 times P is what gave us the $50. So now I'm just going to solve by dividing by 0.33. And if you do that, you get $150. Now I don't even need to use that formula. So for this, you're just basically going to take so notice what I did here. I took the $50, that was the markup. I should write this in words. And I divided it by the markup rate. Oops. So that's what to do. That's what you would do if you want to find a selling price and you're given the markup based on the selling price. Okay, a pair of socks which has been marked up $3 and with a markup rate of 60% based on selling price. So if we use this equation, the markup is going to be $3 divide it by the markup rate, which is 60%. That's the same as a percent markup. So just make sure though that you put it in as a decimal. If I do 3 divided by 0.6, I get $5. So that's the selling price. Okay. Find the selling price with the amount of markup based on selling price. Okay, so this one's going to be a little bit different. So we'll go back to this formula, see if we could use that to help us. We want to find the selling price, so I don't know P. It costs the retailer $2, so that's the C. It was marked up 60%. Now, this markup is 60%, but it's based on selling price, so 60% of P. So 0.60P. So right here I'm going to put 0.60P, and that equals P. Well, since P is the only variable now, I can actually solve this. So let me bring this down here. So to solve for P, I'm going to move this to the other side to get the P's together. So I'll subtract 0.60P. So I get 2 equals 0.40P. And then to get P alone, I'll just divide by 0.40. So P equals $5. Okay, the $3 is how much it was marked up, and it didn't ask for that, so you don't need that. But if you wanted to know how much it was marked up, it would be $3. Okay, so again, we have one similar, a box of chocolates that costs $8 a box and is marked up 75%. So my cost was $8. It was marked up 75% of the selling price, so 0.75P. So that's my markup amount. That equals P. So to get P together, I'm going to subtract 0.75P. So I get 8 equals 0.25P. And then I'll divide by 0.25 on both sides, which gives me $32. Alright, so now compare the markup based on cost with markup based on selling price. So it's very important that you look at what it's based on. So find the markup rate based on cost and the markup rate based on selling price of a computer that costs $1,500 and sells for $2,000. Okay, so regardless of which one you're doing, the first thing you have to find is the markup. And really these should say markup rate based on cost and markup rate based on selling price. So first, to find the markup, I'm going to take the selling price and subtract the cost, which gives me $500. So to go from $1,500 to $2,000, it was marked up $500. It's a difference of $500. Okay, now for the markup rate based on cost, I'm going to take the $500 and divide it by the cost. For the markup rate based on selling price, I'm going to take 500 and divide it by the selling price. So this one's going to be 500 divided by the cost, which was $1,500. So that's 0.33. This one is going to be 500 divided by 2,000, which is 0.25. And then you can multiply them both by 100 or move the decimal over twice, whatever is easier for you, to give you 33% and 25%. So markup rate based on cost, it was 33% markup. If you base it on selling price, it's a 25% markup. And it will be more of a markup based on cost than on the selling price. So there is a difference. Okay. If you want to convert between markup based on cost and markup based on selling price, so let's say you're converting a markup based on selling price to a markup based on cost. The markup rate based on cost is equal to the markup rate based on selling price divided by 100% minus the markup rate based on selling price. So basically it's doing this backwards. And then this one is similar, but it's divided by the markup rate based on cost plus 100%. Okay, for markdown, that's when you, that's for discount, sales, things like that. So you're going to subtract the new price from the original price. The original price is always 100%, just keep that in mind. Okay, so we are going to look at a bunch of markups and markdowns. So find the final price for an item that costs $18. Okay, so it was originally $18, and then it was marked up 20%. So it was marked up 20% of the cost, right? So I need to figure out 20% of 18. Well, I can do that by doing 0.20 times 18, right? So 0.20 times 18 gives me 3.6. And then when I add them, I get 21.6. Now, I'm going to show you another way to do this. If you're marking something up 20%, isn't that the same as saying it was what it originally was plus 20 more percent? And what it originally was 100%, right? So you're marking it up, not only the original price of 100%, but 20% more than that. So you're really marking it up 120% of the original amount. Well, 120% is the same as 1.2 if you move the decimal over twice. So if I wanted to know 120% of 18, I could do 1.2 times 18. And guess what that is? 21.6. So this saves us a lot of steps from having to do what I did here, but I get the same answer. So if you mark something up, that's what this is saying right here, you could take the rate and add it to 100%, and then just multiply that number. So basically I could start with my 18 and multiply by 1.2. Now, same goes for marking down, but it's just the opposite. Let's say I wanted to mark something down 20%. Well, that means it's not going to be the full 100% that it was before, right? It's going to be 20% less than what it was originally. Well, originally it was 100%, because that was the full amount, and I marked it down 20%, so I'm really only asking for 80% of the original. So instead of multiplying by 20% and then subtracting it, I can just multiply by 80%. So let's look at this one. It was $18, I marked it up 20%. So 120%, which is 1.2. And then it was marked down 33%. So down 33%, well, that's 33% less than what it originally was, the 100%, which is 67%. So it's really 67% of the original amount. So then I can multiply this by 0.67, and then it was marked up 10%. So really that's 100% plus 10% of that cost, which is really 110%, which is 1.10. So then I can multiply this by 1.10, or just 1.1. And then it was marked down 50%, so that's 100% minus the 50%, so it's really going to just be 50% of what it was. So times 0.50. And then if I multiply all those together, I get my final price, which was $7.96. Okay. So let's look at this one for a second. Mr. Green, isn't there a Clue character, Mr. Green? Mr. Green did it with the wrench in the study. Okay, Mr. Green buys 100 pounds of tomatoes, that's a lot of tomatoes, at 15 cents per pound, and establishes a markup rate of 120% based on cost. What is the total selling price? Okay, so his total selling price, P, is going to be whatever it cost him plus the markup, right? It's C plus M equals P. Alright, so he bought 100 pounds at 15 cents a pound. So first I need to figure out how much it cost him. So it's basically 100 times 15 cents, right? Well, that gives us $15. So it cost him $15. And then he marked it up 120% based on cost. So 120% of the cost. So 120% is 1.20 times the cost. Well, we already figured out the cost was $15. That gives us $18. So the markup amount was $18. So that's what this is saying. So the total selling price, that's what TSP stands for, is $15 plus $18. So he ended up selling them for $33. Okay, now let's say he only expects to sell 90%. So first question is, how many pounds is he expecting to sell? Well, he had 100 pounds, right? And he's expecting to sell 90%. 90% of that. So just 0.9 times 100, which is 90 pounds. So he's only expecting to sell 90 pounds. So now, what is the price per pound he is expecting to sell? Okay, well, he's expecting to sell it for $33, and he's only expecting to sell 90 pounds. So I basically want to divide the $33 by the number of pounds to get the price per pound. So I'm going to take 33 and divide by 90, and that gives 37 cents per pound. So he's expecting to sell it for 37 cents a pound when he bought it at 15 cents a pound. Not too shabby. Okay, so that's going to conclude our lesson for today. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email me or check in with me. Have a great day.